Dan ayun lah ba. Yan Aji. Kanapari.
Oh.
Oh, what is it?
Some people think that a luxury product would give them a certain image they would want to keep within the society. So I think this could be the reason why some people would choose them.
Yes, I think luxury goods are worth their price because a lot of time, effort, energy and creativity goes into making them. So yes.
People can feel good about buying them and feel like they're part of some exclusive club. So no, I think it's nonsense.
I'm just relaxing. How you doing? How's London? Man, who are we talking about? What? What is that? Luxury brand. I love it. If you're, this is what I'm thinking. If you can make it the way you go all the way up there, if you want it to last a long time, for high quality, for what do you say? Like, it just looks good. Everybody loves it.
Personally prefer that if the brand things have more social, environmental ethics more than the actually brand itself.
What's up? How you doing?
What's great about it?
Hey, how you doing? Luxury goods stood for that kind of quality and value, but I think that's really changed a lot with mass consumption in the past 20 years. So I think consumers don't think it's actually worth the same amount.
Welcome to Shooters, and an especially warm welcome because starting this week, we've made a little change to make our show more exciting and more stimulating for you viewers, so hopefully you'll stay with us until the end. Some of the changes include new panelists, so I'd like to extend a special welcome to Naji, Charles, and Juhi. It's great to have you on the show.
Hello. Welcome.
Okay.
Hi.
All right, we look forward to some more stimulating discussions and debates on the show. Up for debate this week is luxury goods. Many different types of luxury goods, and in particular, designer handbags are popular with women around the world. But because of lagging sales around the world, even so-called no-sales luxury brands are offering heavy discounts. But are they still luxury goods if they're cheaper? So this week, Shooters asks, discounted chichi goods, are luxury goods worth their price? So Shooters, what do you think about luxury goods? Are they worth it?
I think if you look at the question on a very surface level, anyone who's willing to pay a certain amount for something obviously thinks that it's worth it, right? But I think that cuts both ways because there's a lot of people who don't want to buy a product like that at that price. So I don't know if you can totally ask the question, are you worth it, without looking at the question a little bit more deeply.
Okay. Anyone else?
I can tell a little story which I think demonstrates the British public's perception of luxury goods. The second most successful luxury brand in Britain is Burberry, and people like Kate Moss and Victoria Beckham wore them a lot in the late 90s and the early 2000s, around about that time. But what happened was they became very popular with lower class people, and at the time there was this phenomenon of the chav, and the chav was a sort of negative word to describe lower class people who aspired to these sort of higher luxury goods. And because Burberry was so distinctive, it was easy to copy and for people to look like they were wearing a luxury good. So the chavs, the so-called chavs, they started copying en masse Burberry clothes, and they were sold in markets and knockoff shops, and they became so popular and so ubiquitous that it had a serious negative impact on the brand because they didn't want just the average lower class person on the street, and it was a very big problem for the brand. But I think that shows exactly what luxury brands are to British people. So it's a way of maybe transcending your class. It's a way of trying to join sort of an exclusive club. But of course, if everybody can join that exclusive club, then it suddenly loses its worth.
Well, you know, in Korea, the name Burberry is synonymous with trench coat. So that's what we call it, body, right? So
I see,
basically
right.
the same
I never
thing.
realized.
Right.
But I mean, what's it like in your countries? I mean, India and Sweden or Chile. I mean, how are luxury goods perceived?
In Sweden, there is no like luxury good trend, or like people don't like to buy brand things. They just want to buy things that are sustainable. Like think about the environment, it's fair trade.
Eco.
Yeah, eco.
Friendly.
But in Chile, because South America has a growing economic market, like brands are doing like their trend in Chile now. People want to be seen with their Gucci bags and things like that. So it's very different, South America and Sweden.
I'm just gonna jump in right here. Luxury brands right here, I call it the lifestyle. You make it, you earn it. For example, you earn so much money and you can buy anything you want. Would you buy a Ferrari or would you buy, think about it though. Let's say you're going to a very, very high-class business meeting and somebody sees you walking out from the Bentley and then you're walking out with guards, everything. People are gonna have an eye candy on you. But you come out from the subway with, you know, just like t-shirt and jeans. Hey, I'm here to do business.
Hey.
But think about, okay, for some people that's true, but for some business owners, like look how Steve Jobs dressed,
Yeah.
for example. So I mean,
Steve Jobs can afford anything that you will work for your life.
Right, but what does he choose to buy? That's the question. It's not what can he
It's
What does he
for
make?
not for
What does he
everyone.
make it though, and how much does he make? That he could
Right.
just pretty much buy anything he wants to, but
But did you hear what I
He
he
said?
just chooses
But he
not to.
did.
Right.
That's just
the
his
point.
lifestyle.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is the luxury goods are only lifestyle. It's good for people who can earn it, but it's bad for people who can just can't afford it. They're poor.
But
I'm
obviously
gonna
it's not
talk
worth it to everyone who can earn it though too, is the point. And some people choose to and some don't.
Exactly.
Because conspicuous consumerism in certain circles is considered poor taste. In other circles
exactly,
it's not.
exactly.
Right?
Let
So
me
Charles,
compare-
what's your opinion on those people who will, you know, pay for a luxury handbag or a designer handbag in installments, and that's the way they can afford it? Maybe in your eyes they're not really able to afford
when you're
it.
back there, I heard somebody saying one boyfriend sold his lung or something to buy his girlfriend
That's too
a
extreme.
Part of the
luxury
kid
handbag.
maybe, yes.
That guy is an
He obviously
idiot.
needs help.
He needs help.
Yeah.
Honestly, like buying a luxury brand, I would say it lasts longer. It's high quality. No matter what's in high quality. But you did say there's sometimes they're going on sale, right? For example, Chanel. The question was sometimes Chanel's do go on sale. The thing is, no matter what, Chanel is Chanel. Chanel has a long history. If I made my brand, if the design were pretty low quality and it was worth nothing, I would still put that on the market, saying like, you know, just put like our logo in there. People already know our brand anyways. People are just gonna look at the tag. We're gonna make money no matter what. I'll just sell it out there. Just one t-shirt, white t-shirt that says Chanel. This little tiny Chanel.
I feel like
People
people
still buy.
don't really buy the goods because of the price. It's definitely not the reason. It's the name. It's what the name of the brand stands for. So if they are buying Chanel, they're expecting a certain level from Chanel that they are not going to find in any other brand. So I think that's why they go to certain brands even if they are that expensive. And if they go on sale, so they will still have the same standards, I guess.
I'd also like to butt in and point out, coming back to what Danny said earlier, I think it just depends on the people. Like there are people who are going to brand loyalty, for example. Like I say, for example, I like Burberry because I like the whole tartan scheme. It suits me, so I stick to Burberry. It's not because I don't like Dior or Armani or Prada, you know. So that works. In India, for example, the mindset is more about is a raw material worth it? For them, it's not all about the logo. So it's more like the leather or the raw material that went into the bag. How much was that worth?
I don't
And,
think
you know?
it's only about the person's like taste or things. Like there's also society. I grew up in an environment where you don't have to have brand things. But then coming to Korea, I was being told that every girl has to have one brand bag. And I have a lot of Korean friends who put so much money, took loans to buy this brand bag to bring to weddings. So they can, like, people are not going to judge them, or like they have to look good in front of people to show that my wallet is bigger than your wallet kind of thing.
And I mean, owning a designer handbag, I mean, that was kind of like maybe the romance of a lot of Korean girls as well as Asian girls. But isn't it also just maybe a symbol of the rising sort of economic status of a lot of countries, especially in Asia, that did start out poor, but they achieved fast economic growth, and now they want to show that and they want to enjoy that wealth, maybe through designer luxury goods.
First of all, let me rephrase that. Luxury brands are only popular in Asian culture? I don't think so. Every girl around the world.
I didn't say that they're only popular, but
it's a growing market.
The growing market, especially
still,
is Asia.
I mean, my mama, like my mother, she's beautiful. She loves everything that I give it to her, even if it's tteokbokki or comes up to luxury brands or anything. If I gave her tteokbokki, she's not gonna talk to her friends. Oh, my son gave me this tteokbokki. But if I gave her one Louis Vuitton bag, Mom, this is 300만 원, like $3,000 right here. She'd be like, ladies, my son gave me this. You know, like she's gonna be loving it.
That's so interesting. It's so different from where I grew up. In Sweden, we totally don't have that kind of mindset. It's like, oh, this is like a sustainable, this brand. They have workers are being paid like this. It's a good material, fair trade here and there. Like, if someone walks around with like something that shows a big brand, people are like, oh, it's so ridiculous.
That's the norm in Sweden.
But
really?
like even among rich people, they spend money on experiences traveling, or wine or food, but not brand. Like, this is me, I have more money than
it's considered in certain circles. America is interesting because you see both sides in America.
Right.
Like, there's some people who think that it's tacky, and at the same time there's some people who say, no way, this is how I enjoy my money, and it's not. And so it's interesting because like I totally understand where you're saying people come from in Sweden, and also there's a lot of people in America who think the way you do. So I mean,
think of the difference is like developed societies and societies that are aspiring to those heights. So I would say in India there is this burgeoning middle class that wants to show that it has the power and the money, and that it travels abroad. And experiences and everything are one thing, but you have to have something to show for those experiences. So you traveled to Italy and then you brought back a handbag.
Well, I think too, it's like people who are used to their wealth versus people who are rising economically, right?
True.
People who've had money for a longer time. Oftentimes, like the wealthy people that you'll see even in Korea, they'll have a Benz from 1992, and they didn't buy a new one, and it's like they're doing that on purpose. They're like, I don't need to show it.
I'll put
Whereas
a
younger family,
fact
it's
on
different.
this basis. I read up on luxury brands, and apparently India's royals have a long history with them. Some of the Maharajas used to get all their luggage made solely from Louis Vuitton because they had their own trains to travel in. Right. There is one really famous Cartier necklace called the Patiala necklace, which had a large number of Burma rubies and diamonds on it. In fact, they restored it recently after it was stolen. So then you look at the way they used to live, the royals. Apparently, one of the royals once went to a Rolls-Royce showroom and was insulted. So he bought their cars and used them as garbage trucks in his city until they tendered an apology. So, I mean, there's that end of the spectrum, and then there's the end of the spectrum where you're just like, you're not earning much in a month, and that finally helps you get to where you want to be,
I feel like Algeria is very similar to Sweden because no one really cares about what bag you have or what shoes you are wearing. Even like rich people, they might spend their money on maybe functional goods, like they might get a nice car, an expensive one, but when it comes to shoes, they would just get whatever works.
Okay. But I mean, we've talked about designer handbags and maybe like expensive shoes, but men, you have your own luxury goods, nice watches, right? Which can also run into the tens and maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's not just handbags or designer shoes or designer clothes. It could be an expensive car, Ferrari. It could be an expensive watch, which are functional. But a $10 watch can work just as well as a multi-$1,000 one.
I'm gonna jump in right here. I saw on YouTube channel, one guy, he just walks up to a girl, hey, you wanna take a ride with me? And he drives over, he takes a girl and he's standing right in front of Ferrari. Girl went crazy. He passes over the Ferrari, gets into a Toyota. The girl walked right past by him. He comes back with Ferrari saying, hey, it's my car, like you wanna get in? That girl, the same girl who denied, went right back in and saying, is this your car? And then the guy says, so if I have Toyota, you're gonna deny me, but then now that I have Ferrari, you're gonna come back inside my car? Get out, just get out. The girl walked away. Same thing that goes long, hundreds and 200s of years ago. If you're riding on a nice white luxury horse, girls are gonna be like, oh boy.
So are you shaming the girl right now or the guy for putting
all
a silly test
If a guy walks up with a donkey and then says, hey, get on my donkey, the girl's gonna be like, I'm not getting on your donkey.
I would
I'm gonna
ask.
get
But
on
if
the
he
guy's.
needs a donkey to get a girl, or if he needs a Ferrari to get a girl, then he's got some issues too.
I don't think he's got an issue. I
Of course
don't
he
think
does.
so.
Of course he does.
Charles, not all girls are like that, man. Sorry, man.
That's just one girl.
We'll
I guess.
see about that.
Barry, you're
There's
awfully
gonna be
quiet.
one day it's gonna come up to you.
I don't know quite what to say. I'm disturbed by the rather simplistic understanding that we seem to have of this very complicated and very important
So
subject.
enlighten us.
Sorry, Professor.
But I'm not a professor. I'm just an average person who can see what's happening in the world around me because I pick up a newspaper from time to time. And I think the vast majority of people that do even have the barest minimum of engagement with the issues that are happening around the world understand that the lifestyle which we apparently seem to be at least equivocating about, or some people seem to be arguing is entirely acceptable, is, I'm afraid, not entirely acceptable. There are tangible and very real downsides to luxury goods. I mean, we could talk about what the gold trade does to numerous countries around the world, the political instability that it causes in third world countries. We could talk about blood diamonds and the incredible and awful things that have happened there. There's any number of things that we could talk about, and I'm afraid, but the way that this ridiculous, nonsensical lifestyle that you're espousing, I'm afraid, is just preposterous. I mean, I don't really know what to say. There are a lot more things that we need to talk about.
Can you make it easier?
I can't deny that it
I don't understand your
happens, but I
luxury words,
can
man.
deny that it's a thing that's worth happening, okay? So America has sort of passed the baton to China in recent years. So the industry there has declined in terms of the sale of luxury goods, okay? And there definitely is a cycle. 20 years ago, Japan spent a lot of money on luxury goods, but now it's the BRIC
it's
countries,
China.
okay? It's Brazil, it's Russia, it's India, and it's China. Now that trend, they're aping the previous trend of America, and they're aping the previous trend of Japan. But wouldn't it be better if they aped or made or created a different trend in which they weren't spending millions on Louis Vuitton? Louis Vuitton made $22 billion
What would you
as a
propose,
cutlet.
like, instead of
Exactly.
that?
What
What do you
Instead of
propose?
spending your money on these ridiculous items, which are essentially meaningless, the cost that's attributed to them is arbitrary. Instead of spending money on that, I mean, I can't believe if I was a millionaire, I'd actually spend millions on a yacht or a watch or something like that. You need to buy a gold gun, put it to your temple.
I wouldn't agree with you about that.
How much is that gold gun, brother? How much is that gold gun? That's money right there. You know, guns are
See,
not cheap.
one
And if it's
great.
gold,
I think one thing everyone is discounting is that it's not just, I mean, you're talking about arbitrary, like inflation, the price.
Yeah,
of money.
yeah.
What about creativity? Have you seen how much work and like how many people
Okay,
work
The
on something
artistry
like
that goes into it. Okay, Juhi, I understand your point, and I want you to hold on to that. But right now, we're going to go to the results of the online poll, where we asked our audiences to vote on this. Are luxury goods worth their price? Let's take a look at the results. The results of the online poll are quite one-sided, which was surprising to me. But yes, we received 16.7%, and no is 83.3%.
This was a poll in Korea?
Well, no, it's
I'm
international viewers, of course. But we had
Yeah.
one actual comment from a Korean viewer who said, "No, I don't believe luxury goods are worth their price. Most luxury brands are expensive due to their brand value and high status. However, if a person is confident with his inner self, there's no need to compensate inferiority by owning and showing off a luxury product. I believe luxury brands are a rip-off using people's inferiority complex and shallow self-esteem."
I have a question for
can I
So we know how he voted,
Can I
or
say
she voted.
That's
sour
extreme.
grapes much?
I want to mention what you said about self-esteem. I read a study that shows that people become even more self-centered, and some parts of their self-esteem brain activates when you buy this luxury brand.
Look, even apparently selfies are a sign of narcissism. So for God's sake, I mean, if we want to
Guilty.
start nitpicking at people, we can. There's a
Plastic
downside to
surgery.
everything.
The
you
devil,
know?
right?
the devil does work.
Yes, yes. So it's like you can't necessarily pick at luxury brands and say there's a downside to everything, okay? But in my opinion, it's because, like as we discussed earlier, if you're paying for it, you obviously think it's worth it.
Yeah,
So you're
I
saying
guess-
everyone has a narcissistic side, whether it's a luxury product or whether it's taking endless selfies on the
Yes.
internet or
Yes.
maybe even plastic surgery.
Yes.
Everyone has their own way of expressing
Yes.
that.
For me, I feel like it's really product based too. Like I am interested in some what you could call luxury brands. Like I don't buy luxury brands. I'm not interested in that kind of brand loyalty, but I do buy bespoke clothing sometimes, and you could call that that's definitely a luxury.
Yes.
But to me, if the craftsmanship is there, it's worth it. And I think consumers in 2015 are a lot more discerning, right? So I think that you can learn more about what the brand is doing, how the product is made. So I think there's some brands, and probably the majority of them, that are based on the label, on the name, I think aren't worth it because 90% of it is made in another country. You know, a lot of them are made in China and Vietnam, and then the buckle is put on in Italy, and it says made in Italy. And this is known by a lot of people. In that case, I feel like it's a waste, and I wouldn't want to. But I think there's definitely products too, if I had more money, that if it was craftsmanship based, maybe I would purchase. But I think more the label-based, like the name-based stuff, I don't think is worth it. Because I think a consumer who educates themselves.
Do you agree that
buy it.
people will judge you on your appearance?
Oh, yeah.
Like
Oh,
Charles
yeah.
said,
Oh, yeah,
right? If you come to a meeting, whether you're dressed in jeans or whether,
Because people do judge you before knowing you. People judge book by its cover before even knowing your personality. I remember going abroad and had a business meeting, and he says, "Do you think you could hook me up with Lamborghini?" I was like, "I know a guy who sells Lamborghini. Like maybe he can give you a better deal." He goes, and I asked him, "Why would you want Lamborghini?" He goes, "You know, it's good for business. Like if you drive off a Lamborghini, people judge you better."
What kind of business was it?
It was, you know. But then I thought to myself, from that moment, you know, people do judge people. They look at your clothes, they look at your attire. They just judge you by who you are before even knowing you. Let's say,
yeah, but we know your point, and like you're saying, someone drive a Lamborghini, that's going to open doors for them.
So what I'm saying
for some
is, like,
people it doesn't, but it cuts both ways. Because sometimes
Exactly.
that's
I'm probably going to think
negative.
a guy coming to like university in a Lamborghini is obnoxious. So I wouldn't give him time of
what
day.
I'm saying is luxury brand is a lifestyle. People who only want it. I'm not saying everybody needs it.
Actually, even luxury goods, like what is considered as a luxury good is different from one person to another and from a certain level of income to the other. Because at a certain level of income, a product can be a luxury good, but when you go to the higher level of income, the luxury good is going to become just a normal good.
Right.
So it really depends on how much money you have.
Because there are entry-level luxury goods,
Yeah,
right?
they are.
The sort of the
There is.
mid-range price, and then people go on to the higher end, and then maybe if they can to haute couture, they will steadily rise. Yeah.
I'm going to go back to her quote saying, you know, the book was handmade, you said, right? Well, if you look at Swiss watches, a lot of them are handmade. It's a quality. How much of effort they put in there.
That's
it
what I'm
lasts
talking
longer.
about, yeah.
You don't even need to put a battery. It's automatic.
Don't
Suits me
you
better,
think
you know?
those craftsmen, those amazing craftsmen who've studied their art and studied their trade and crafted it over years or decades or passed it down from generation to generation, don't you think they've been co-opted into this kind of obnoxious system that just sells us this kind of ridiculous lifestyle? I think we're all caught in that matrix, and there have been lots of studies which say that people are more deferential to someone who has a designer brand or a luxury brand, and so it is a fact of life, but we're all caught in that framework, right? That's a type of social programming. We don't have to accept it, right? And those craftsmen, they're as much co-opted and caught by that framework as you and I are, right? Wouldn't you? I'd much rather reject that programming which says that this watch is worth, you know, 5 million, okay? So only someone who can afford to spend 5 million on it is worth this watch. It's not like, it's
What
like,
is wrong with
are
that?
you good enough?
I don't.
If you have the money, then you are
It's
free to
almost
spend it
isn't
any way you
even
want.
asking that question. You're sort of hiding or obfuscating what the problem is there, though.
Exactly,
right?
I don't understand what the problem
I can't
is.
imagine having a spare 5 million and thinking I'd rather spend this on a watch
There's
Daddy, you
people
do
who
realize-
rather do
Daddy, you do
something
realize these
beneficial
people-
for some
These
community.
people already do all that. They already contribute to charity and don't
That's
just
a massive
they don't just have an
assumption.
somebody
additional
came over
5
there,
million.
please.
Absolutely
They have an
ridiculous.
additional lot of
But
money.
Barry,
So
but
it's
I
not-
think her point is someone whose entire fortune is 5 million will not spend it all on a watch. Okay,
Exactly.
a person who has 5 million to spend on a watch obviously has much more bank in the bank.
Exactly.
But
And-
there's nothing to necessarily say that they're doing anything with regards to helping anybody else at all.
But Barry, let me ask
Well, that
you
may
a
be that
question.
person,
Let
and they
me
may be
ask-
obnoxious,
Let me
but-
ask you a question. If you were to suddenly come into a large sum of money, okay? The hypothetical question, of course. Now you have a wife also, you know, and she maybe wants something nice and you want to give her something nice, but you would say no luxury goods, out of the question.
Would I say no luxury goods at all? I might buy a slightly bigger house. You know, I might
Then you
make sure that I
need-
was
then
more
you need?
comfortable.
I think that
then
what
you need.
Money.
Then you're already
More
destroying
than
your
I
own
need.
I think
standards.
that-
But well, what you're saying, like money buys you that's the key idea here, right? Money buys you the ability to segregate yourself from the rest of the world, to make sure you're an island, right? And you're not an island. Everything you do connects to something else.
I can see what I love. I mean, I always appreciate when you bring in the larger social implications. That's like that's why I love that you're here. What I think about it is, I still think that people who focus on the brand name, I personally do think they're suckers a lot of the time, but I don't think all the time. I still, looking at it from a consumer point of view, I look at it differently, but I come to a similar conclusion. But what I just feel is they are becoming mass produced. They're becoming mass items. So a luxury item, when someone asks me, is it worth it? I'm like, no, at this point, no, it's a ripoff. It's not what it was 30 years ago. It's not what it was 50 years ago. It's being marketed oftentimes. I think like 80 or 90% of the goods are marketed in the same way that Uniqlo is. You know what I mean? It's just a little bit higher of a target market. So that's why I conclude.
Danny, what do you mean by like what it wasn't used to be, like 30 years ago, 40 years ago? What do you mean by that?
Like a lot of the European brands were actually made in Italy or made in France fully at that time, and the materials were better. Like right, and now because of outsourcing, like a lot of ones that are made in Vietnam or China, not every good is like that, but the ones that are, I feel like.
Okay, at this time, I think it's a good time to actually see where you guys really stand on this issue. Are luxury goods worth it? Who of you believe that it is, that they are? Show of hands. Okay. And the other three, I guess? No? Okay. It's time to...
Is it the old-timers versus the
new time now? It's time to head into the armories and gear up for the debate show, okay? Shooters, let's gear up.
Are we taking a break?
Yeah, you're going into your respective armories.
And the people who buy luxury items, luxury goods, they're not spending their money just on luxury goods.
I'm gonna ask them questions. What are the luxury to you?
If I buy into it, it's because of the craftsmanship, the creativity, and it's like the fact that it can last really long. They say it's okay because you wear it once and you throw it away. So then, isn't something that you buy and wear multiple times and lasts you a lifetime?
I've read many reports saying that the brands are increasing their price just because they can.
I think the price now is totally separate from the process of manufacture. Feeding back into your local economy is much more preferable.
Did you actually just buy status, or did you actually just buy into something and you look like a sucker for it?
All these luxury things that people have bought off credit, the money doesn't exist, but they buy them to show off.
So the shooters are back from their armories, armed and ready for the debate part, I hope. And from now on, any changes in your opinions will be tracked by a gauge. Everyone begins at 100% convinced of their own opinion, but at each time the opposing team says something reasonable or persuasive, you will press on the minus button. On the other hand, if your teammate says something persuasive or reasonable, you can press on the plus button. And only the viewers at home and I will know where you stand at any particular moment. It's a race between the old and the new, or the old and the new.
Between good and evil.
That's really old-fashioned, I'll give you that.
So the question was, luxury goods, are they worth their price? You believe they are. Why?
Yes, we believe they're worth their price because, firstly, a lot of time, effort, and energy goes into them. There is a certain level of creativity involved, which makes them worth it. And secondly, if I have the money, it's mine to do it as I please. I don't see any.
Yeah, and it's about the quality too. The amount of money they already spend to make that product, and the effort and time they put in, it's definitely worth it, I would say. And it definitely lasts longer. And I'll talk about that later.
Okay, and now the no team, it's your turn.
Yes. So you just said the products take a lot of time, effort, and money to produce, which may have been true 40 years ago, but in 2015, more than 90% of these products are being produced, mass-produced, in Vietnam and in China in the same way that other products that we buy, cheaper products that we buy, are produced. So in 2015, that's just not how it works for most products. 80 to 90% is what is estimated. Secondly, I don't think it matters whether it's narcissistic or not how you spend your money. The question is, are you really buying what you think you're buying? And in 2015, a lot of people will consider you being suckered for buying a good that isn't worth the price that it's sold at. And this is why luxury brands have to work so hard with their marketing in this era to actually say, yes, we are luxury, we are worth it. Because it's a much more discerning consumer in 2015 that knows how these products are being made.
And they are increasing the prices because more people are having afford to it, so they have to make it even more exclusive, higher prices, higher prices.
Do you know how much prices have risen?
I read that Chanel bags have quadrupled in the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
think about how much were the movie tickets worth back in 10 years ago? Economy, and everybody's making money now. It's getting better and better. It's going up. How much were the pizza in 1960s or 70s?
Well, that's inflation. So the question is,
Yeah,
have
that's
those,
not the
have
same.
those ingredients changed? So in a movie, has a movie changed enough to reflect that? The point is, in this case, yeah, movies might cost more to produce now, right? In this case, the luxury goods being produced actually cost less
But
because they're being mass produced.
do realize
So that argument doesn't work.
Even raw materials are going to cost more now, no matter where you're sourcing them from, because the third world countries aren't exactly third world anymore. So resources are going to cost a bit more there as well. This is where the problem
Well,
comes
it's
in.
definitely
Like
cheaper to produce
everyone
in
wants to
China than
pay
France.
less for great quality, but then no one wants to shell out a lot of money. That's my problem. You pointed out that 90% of the products are mass produced, but then you also pointed out that consumers are more discerning these days. Well, that's the
Right.
point. So they know what's being mass produced and they don't want it anymore. We're talking about luxury brands here. So people are aiming for like what they can afford. So there are those, we talked about entry level goods earlier, and then there's like really high fashion. So if I can afford a certain entry level good, I'll take that and I'll take my time getting into high fashion.
But don't
so
you think that so
moves
many
from
people can
to
afford it now? I see it as being much more accessible. When I see, I'm personally not impressed. If I see someone wearing a luxury item, I don't think, personally, I don't think negatively of them necessarily, although Barry might. I don't necessarily, but I do think this is no way for me to judge that person. I can't tell if they have money or they don't. Because you can buy on credit. Many of them are cheaper now. It's more accessible.
Denny, so let me just get this straight. You're saying that because they're mass produced, they're just not worth it. So more people can afford it, so their worth as a luxury good has actually gone down?
Right, because I believe you buy the name. I think that's what most people think, is you're buying the status, you're buying the name, you're buying the symbol. If that doesn't actually symbolize that, you know, economically,
Then
then...
it's overpriced, it's not worth it.
You're
Right.
buying the
Barry,
exclusivity.
not Barry, I'm sorry. Dan, you were wearing Ralph Lauren. When did you get that?
I got it 1 week ago.
How much was that?
I don't know, my mom gave it to me.
Your mom gave it to you.
I come from a good family.
Good family. Do you think Ralph Lauren is worth the price? Is that why you were wearing for the TV show to stand it out? Or would you wear anything that's really low cost? And
I love Ralph Lauren. I love the brand. I love the guy. So my mom knows that I like it, so I'm pretty happy to wear it. And this is not.
So your point is you're paying for that good because you think it's worth it.
Well, but this is not a luxury good. Ralph Lauren, like a Ralph Lauren shirt, you're looking at, I mean, anyone would wear Ralph Lauren. College students wear Ralph.
Relatively,
but
it's
not. But it's not. It wouldn't
wear Ralph Lauren.
it's
Ralph Lauren
affordable.
purple
It's
label.
affordable, but you did say like
Affordable,
Chanel.
exactly. It's
Chanel
very
just lowered the
different
price,
than.
so would you afford
it's
Chanel if it
very
was
different.
affordable?
See,
It's
again,
not a luxury
Danny,
brand.
you said affordable. Again, for how many people across the globe? I get that a larger part of the population is richer now than it was 20 years ago, but a large part of the world still can't get enough to eat, which is a problem. Barry brought it up earlier, I get that. But then we also discussed that there are downside implications to everything, like high fashion or like fast fashion, okay? The fact that you mentioned H&M has recycling standards. H&M has them. Does Zara and Forever 21 have them? Do you know how much they sell every year?
I don't buy
So it's
Forever
like
21.
well, you don't, but a lot of other people do, is my point. So it's like, you can't say there are problems with something so you can't handle that. That's not how that works.
My
Go ahead,
point
go
exactly
ahead.
to you was going to be, you seem to be suggesting that because everything has a downside, then we should just throw our hands up in the air and say, what the heck, you know, I'm going to buy my Chanel. But that's not true, okay? And earlier when you made your opening statement, you also said that it's your money and you can do with it what you want.
As long as you're not
Is-
hurting anyone.
Well, well, that's exactly my point, right? So you are, a lot of the time when you buy luxury goods, you are hurting someone. You're definitely hurting someone. I mean, a lot of the ingredients
Who
that
are
go
you
into
hurting?
Who are
lots of
doesn't
luxury
necessarily
goods.
work out
No,
like
hold
that,
on, right? Let's look at let's say, blood diamonds, okay? So there's been huge problems in the past decade and a half, 2 decades of blood diamonds in various parts of the world, okay? So Western Africa, huge structural problems have been caused in these places by the West's hunger for blood diamonds, okay? In that industry, when those problems became public and more people were campaigning about those problems, they struggled, okay? They struggled to change that industry. But if you're buying a diamond, then I'm sorry, but you are contributing to a problem somewhere. You're not an island.
But then
and you
again,
do
we
have to
see-
think about the ramifications of what you spend your money on. We can't just say, well, there's downsides to everything.
And-
You're an
and
adult
even-
and a
My entire
consumer.
point here, Barry, is that you people seem to blame it entirely on luxury and like luxury brands. I'm saying there's problems with everything. So my point is, you're saying blood diamonds, fine, but
Yeah.
the point I made earlier about fast fashion, the fact that you buy these clothes cheap, not just the fact that the environment is affected. You're funding sweatshops. Gap has had this problem repeatedly for the last 10 years and nothing has still been done about it. So I'm saying you can't blame all of that on luxury brands.
Well, we could also argue that fast fashion is a direct knock-on effect of luxury brands, okay? Fast fashion has risen as a response to the desire that poor people have for luxury goods. So fast fashion and the problems that come
Are you
with fast
saying
fashion...
fast fashion came before luxury goods?
No,
No,
I'm
he's
saying the
saying
exact
it
opposite.
came out. You could argue
I'm saying that
that.
fast fashion happened as a result of luxury goods.
So you're blaming luxury goods for fast fashion now?
Yes, he did.
I think you can't blame the
That's part of
product.
that
Like
problem,
it's wrong to
absolutely.
blame product because
Why
what
would
you were
you-
talking about the blood diamond. Like the same thing can goes for the meat production. There's a lot of people complaining about that, and we are still eating meat. So you can't really like blame the meat
course,
or
but
the
we're
product
talking about
itself, but
luxury
the
brand
people
right now.
behind it.
We're not
You can't
talking
just say
about
because there's a bad thing here, this bad thing that we're talking about now doesn't matter. It still
No,
doesn't matter.
what
There are
we are saying
problems
is
with
that
meat.
just because there's a bad thing here and you think your problem is you're thinking that's the only bad thing.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
There is not only blood diamond. There is also diamond is
There are
which
a
is
lot of
made
bad
in proper
things,
made.
no, I-
Man, go get him. Put
That's
it right here.
my only problem. But you seem to be trying to say we shouldn't think about this problem because there are problems with some other things.
No, what I'm saying is I will agree with Danny's point about stuff being mass-produced, and I'm saying that is a problem. Everyone wants to get in on the elite club. I will
It's not a
grant you
problem. It
that.
just means that it's not worth the value.
But you must know that these products that are even from the luxury brands that are made in China or these other countries that outside of Europe, they are priced differently from those that are made in Europe or made in Italy.
You
or
try buying
whatever.
sunglasses
So there
that are
is a
made in
difference
Italy.
in the value itself.
There's a difference in the price.
Okay, so at this point, I just want to go to the streets of Seoul to see what people thought about this issue, okay? Let's take a look.
명품이 예전에는 장인이 만들었었는데 지금은 그냥 중국 공장에서 만들고 있기 때문에 그래서 가치가 안 된다고 생각을 했어요.
Not everyone can afford it. That's why it's called a luxury good.
비싼 물건을 든다고 해서 사람이 바뀌는 건 아닌 것 같아요.
여자들은 솔직히 그런 거 있잖아요. 많이 으쓱해지고 그런 거 있다고 생각하는데 그래도 다른 거는 딱히 잘 모르겠어요.
I have a Louis Vuitton bag. It was hand me down. Yeah. But yes, I'd rather spend my money on moments with my family or friends.
브랜드 가치는 무시 못할 것 같아요. 네, 되게 오랫동안 사랑을 받고 이렇게 해서 명품이 된 거잖아요.
명품이 좀 가격이 있잖아요. 근데 가격보다는 본인이 생각하는 가치가 더 중요하다고 생각해요. 약간 의미가 있거나 아니면 뭐 잘 어울리거나.
그 사람들이 그 돈만큼 줘서 자기가 뭐 만족을 하거나 과시를 하거나 이런 다른 비용을 생각을 해서 사는 거라면 그 가치는 한다고 생각을 해요.
So Korean women are sometimes portrayed as being materialistic and only wanting a husband or boyfriend who can afford these designer handbags for them. But I'll have you know that that survey was taken in front of a women's university, and overwhelmingly most people said no, luxury goods are not worth it and it seems overrated. So maybe it's a surprise to the yes team. What do you think about
because you know, it's a location. It's in Shincheon area. There's a lot of students are there. But if you went to Cheongdam area, the entire
Gangnam area.
Gangnam area. But inside Gangnam area, there's a little district called Cheongdam, and then one street is called Luxury Street, 명품거리. That's the name of the street. If you went there and asked them the same question, it could have been different. It's not. Majority of people that we saw, they're like students. They don't know what luxury brands are. Maybe they do. They can't afford it. Their parents could.
I don't think they're stupid to not know.
I never said they're stupid. First
They
of
can't
all.
afford it.
They just can't afford it.
Right, that's
And
what
they
he
don't
said.
think that it's worth it.
Yeah, but
Maybe
if you,
if they can't afford it, their opinion will change. Like after they graduate and get a
What
job
kind
and
of
like the
people go to
income
that
gets
luxury
higher,
suite anyways?
maybe they will.
what kind of
they
people?
can
People
get,
who can afford it.
Yeah, but
People who can spend it.
I just think what they said reflects a more discerning consumer, which is what we have now. Most people would not defend the stance that you guys are defending right now, is what I think. Even Kanye West this year, who would be
you
a
wanna talk about
huge
Kanye West now, okay.
proponent. Yeah, so let's listen up then. So he said, it says, Kanye West appeared at Cannes Film Festival essentially declaring war on premium products. He said, I want to change the idea of what luxury is. Time is the only luxury. It's not these brands that we are just drove by that are somehow selling our esteem back to us through association.
But you're aware that
I'm
it's
sorry,
all
but really,
marketing,
you're gonna
right?
take Kanye West's words on
Because
that
he has
when his own wife has her own label and stuff? Seriously,
Kanye
wow.
has
Kanye
his
West
own
is a
label.
great
Hypocritical
My
much?
point.
So, just hold on a second
Amazing
here. I
accent.
really just, I honestly, I find myself rolling my eyes at this conversation. I mean, I can't quite believe what I'm hearing, right? We need to try and look at this in a slightly bigger context than what we're saying. Now, first things first, it's fundamental. These goods are literally not worth the value that is attributed to them by the market.
You mean money, right?
Exactly, that's exactly what I'm. The guy that came up with the concept of conspicuous consumption about just over a century ago, his name was Veblen, okay, I can't pronounce his first name, and he came up with this idea that conspicuous consumption and luxury goods, the idea behind luxury goods, what luxury goods are, is the demand for luxury goods is proportional to its high price, okay? All it is a mechanism to sell goods at a price that's more inflated than what they are actually worth. All that mechanism does, okay, and the way that that concept of luxury has been defined, it's invented, it's not fundamentally what luxury means, it's been defined, it's been created by those brands, okay, and it's tied to that mechanism just to sell more rubbish to rich idiots that don't have a better clue or understanding of what they're actually engaged in. This idea of luxury, it's a lie that's been sold to us by companies who want us to buy garbage. Okay,
so do you
it's
think
not connected.
You have
to
the right to judge people who are buying those luxury goods?
I think he called them rich idiots.
I do have the right.
Exactly.
I absolutely do have the right
I
to
think
judge them.
Since
And
they
so do
earned
all
that
of
money,
us.
they worked really hard to earn that money.
They don't
I think
necessarily
they are
work
free
really hard.
to spend the money the way they want. I don't think anyone should tell anyone how to spend his money.
That thinking is a problem, right? We're
Why
not
so?
free to just spend
But
our money
Barry, you're
however we
judging a
want.
book by its cover. That's
I'm
not-
not. Because when we spend money without thinking about it, we are damaging other people all over the world for a variety
Can you
of
imagine
reasons.
if everyone
and that's
stopped
part of
buying
the
luxury goods? A lot of jobs are going to be lost.
And
Well,
then
no, I
you
have people
create
who make
markets
luxury
for
goods.
local designers
Excuse me,
and other
I have
people
to
who-
stop you guys. Okay, you remember the question, are luxury goods worth their price? We're not talking about whether people with money are allowed to spend their money where the way they want to. Okay, we're not talking about that.
Thank
We're
you for
talking about
pointing that
are
out.
luxury goods worth their price?
I'd like to bring up my rebuttal.
And I think right now, actually, so far, Barry made a very good point. But before that, I felt like the Yes team was gaining a lot of momentum. You were certainly doing most of the talking. We have a new sort of mechanism in the show. We allow you to go back into your armories, regroup your arguments, come back at the main argument points that were brought up by the other team. And I think this would be a good time to do that. Okay? Do you agree? All right?
Yes.
You both have made some good points. Back to your armories, regroup, refocus.
What they are seeing as value is just money.
I may have an emotional attachment to a certain brand.
So it's not all about names, it's about the quality.
They are spending all their money on their luxury goods. They are also spending the money on like charity work.
What if I want a success though? What if I want to achieve my goals?
You are taking exactly the same kind of raw material and you're turning it into something really special.
Designer handbags, the price has increased by 14% over 10 years.
At the same time, production costs are decreasing. They're making them more mass-produced.
This entire culture of luxury brand has created a credit society in South America.
Your actions have tangible, real effects on other people.
When you buy a luxury good, you're actively being scammed by luxury good marketers.
So you're back from the armories for a second time. I'm very interested to see how this is going to go. But let me throw out a question to you. So are luxury goods just overinflated? And do they just feed into people's narcissistic tendencies? Or do they justify their price because of their artistic quality, the craftsmanship, and the superior quality of the goods themselves? Okay, back to the essential question.
The quality of the product is essentially irrelevant. The quality of the product has no inherent worth in and of itself. In fact, what we'll find with luxury goods is that the price of luxury goods has risen exponentially more than the cost of inflation. So one example, one huge example, there was a study over 10 years, so from 2002 to 2012, into several different brands of designer handbags. And what they found was that the price of designer handbags had risen 14%. Okay, 14%, and that's above inflation. The price of inflation at that time was 2.5%, so that's 5 times more than what the price of inflation is.
But people are still buying it.
People are still buying it.
That means that they see value in it.
Right,
but
so
what does it say about the
right.
inherent value? What does it say about the value?
So you said earlier, you can, it's my money, I can do what I want.
Yeah.
Of course you can. You can burn your money if you want to burn it. You can buy stuffed animal collections, right? That's not, the point is, when you buy a luxury good, because it's been overly inflated, you are being scammed. You're being scammed by that marketing system.
Then
which
means, is it the product that we should blame?
Can I?
Or is it the marketer behind the product that we should blame?
The question is it worth the value?
Yeah.
And the question isn't who should you blame. The question is that worth that amount of money? And the clear answer is no, it's not.
Let's not limit the word value just into money. Because value can be different. People put value in different ways and think about it in different ways. What you see as very important to you, what is very important to you, might not be that important to someone else. And by buying a certain product, I think that product has some value for me. Some people think that by getting such or such product, their self-esteem is going to go higher. And how can you put a certain amount of money on these things?
That's to do with how the way that these goods are marketed, okay? The first thing they do is they create a myth around that good. They're selling you that myth, this myth of luxury that they've constructed, which doesn't mean anything. And they're using that mechanism.
But then you're just saying luxury goods, they're not called luxury bags, right? For example,
I'm just not even going to respond to that point.
You know, when it comes to luxury goods, it's not only about
anything.
clothing. It could be cars, shampoos, clothes, perfumes, anything could be called luxury. But at the same time, would you pay for something that's better or good, or would you buy for some perfume that's smells like?
But his point that it wasn't worth the superior quality. I don't know how are you responding to that?
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, I will grant you that. See, you've basically made your point saying the raw materials don't cost as much. There's like this image built around your product.
The quality of the goods has either stayed the same or it's gotten worse. Okay, the price has greatly increased.
Okay,
the cost of the things that go into it, they've either stayed the same or they've went down.
And I'll tell you where I think that's coming from. Okay, one, what he was trying to say earlier about the value placed in the good. What we're trying to say is that there's more to a product than a monetary value. You know, you see people buying gowns, etc. at auctions, second-hand gowns, things worn by Princess Diana and whatnot. Why? Because I personally see a sentimental or emotional attachment to it. But what he was mentioning earlier about the consumer, the point that I'm trying to make is that this price rise that has gone up is because the number of consumers who want these goods are rising. So the problem lies with the consumer, not with the brand, okay? And the problem is, can I just complete my point, is that these days the middle class is burgeoning and they still have a certain amount of money but still want to be part of the elite. But they don't want to pay the same prices. So the brand also basically is doing what they want. So the problem is not with the brand, the problem is with the consumer. They are responding to the consumer. So there's still stuff that's made in Italy and sold for a much higher price.
No,
and as you mentioned, there's still stuff that's made in China because people want that.
Horse argument is nonsensical at all, okay? The brand has to come first. The brand is leading what people think. That idea that this is what luxury is, that's a manufactured idea. It's not inherently true. that idea of luxury, that's what constitutes luxury, is not true. That's not inherently true or real. That's been constructed deliberately.
Wait a minute. You're not actually answering Juhi's point that it's not just a luxury, it's a sentimental value. It's more than the monetary value. And you're saying that's being all manufactured by the company?
I am.
The luxury
I'm
brand company?
exactly saying what that is.
There's no thinking from the consumer part?
You have a sentimental attachment to that because they've created that myth around that product. That's what marketing does. And it's very, very deliberately done.
Sorry, my problem
Let me look at this idea here.
You called consumers rich idiots as well earlier, which I had a problem with, okay? You can't literally call this huge mass of people rich idiots just because they're buying a certain brand, whether they have emotional attachment to it or whatever else.
Yeah, but
basically attached to it,
what
right?
you can't really say is this rising middle class, they're buying it because they want to be part of the elite. That's what you said.
There is certain people who think that way.
That is a really similar. Do you think that they are buying eliteness by that? Because that is what
they think they are, which is what my problem is.
So do you think it's worth it?
So my problem is with the consumer, not with the brand. This is a demand and supply thing, you guys. Quite simply,
but we're talking about the actual good,
and so they're going to create them, and they're going to create them at a price where people can take part in it.
That the luxury good prices are being determined by the demand. What do you say to that?
Yeah, no, it's not. As long as they're called luxury goods, okay, then by definition, it's nothing to do with supply and demand at all. It's an exactly alternative model to supply and demand, and it's where the price, okay, the higher the price, the more those goods are worth, okay. It's completely the opposite to supply and demand.
So why do you think people are buying
them? Because of the exclusivity. They make the price higher, they artificially inflate that price.
They are ready to pay for that exclusivity.
Right. They are,
but then what's your problem with that?
Then you answer the question. You're paying for exclusivity, not for material.
That's a value.
And that's value for them.
But it's an
artificially You're calling rich people idiots on the basis of something that doesn't matter to you but matters to me.
I think it's more objective than that. I think it's more objective.
No, that's a checkers way to view the argument. Is it worth the value if someone pays that money? Yes, okay, yes, they're paying that much money, so it's worth it. But I think the question is deeper than that.
But that's
Don't you think the question
that is sort of my point. I'm saying there is more to it than just a monetary value attached to it. But you're
a couple of minutes ago, you were arguing that it was supply and demand, and it isn't supply and demand.
It is supply and demand as well. And I'm
if there is no demand,
you guys
it's the opposite. The demand is created by the price that's attributed to it. That artificial
and how is that price attributed to it? Because that is a demand.
Consumption. That's what the conspicuous consumption is.
You know,
that's what the
that's
meaning
not
of
how economy works. As long as there is demand, people are like there's companies going to pursue.
Nadia, but shooters, I have to tell you, after fierce debate, we have reached bullseye. Congratulations. Yeah.
Yes.
So we reached bullseye, but the only thing we could agree on is to disagree. Obviously, there was no clear winner in this very heated argument. I have to give kudos to the new team for, not backing down. Very good there. But we still have to come up with one sentence, of course, that will answer our question: are luxury goods worth their price? So let's toss some ideas around.
Well, I think what we were all reaching towards the end is, in the end, it is the consumer's decision. So, as consumers, we both have different opinions about that.
The problem lies not just with the company. That's what we were saying.
Right.
Barry?
So I suppose I'm just going to have to accept this idea, right? That it's, I don't think the price is really worth it, but I mean, if somebody chooses to apply their own value to it, then I guess I have to accept that, right? So if somebody makes their own autonomous decision to apply a value to it, then I guess I have to accept that. But I think so much of that value is a fantasy that's created
Barry,
and
I will give you credit for a lot of what you said earlier by saying I agree with. In some cases, it's not maybe worth the price the raw material is based on, but the idea that we're coming to this sort of symbiosis is that there's more to it than just monetary value. So, and I think the problem lies in multiple places. I don't think we can just lay it at the doorstep of these companies.
So the value that we put onto these goods is not just monetary. It could be sentimental. It could be maybe business, with business purposes in mind.
Basically, people buy things for different reasons, and everyone has his own reasons. And it's not about accepting that; it's about respecting people's choice.
Exactly.
So
I completely agree with that.
As long as they choose to buy it, you just have to respect it.
Consumers should be a little bit more smarter about their purchases.
Right. And where we're coming from is, I agree to some extent. Like, you don't have a choice, but you don't have a choice but to accept what someone else thinks. I'm not here to teach them, but I think we all did come to some agreement that there are definitely times when people are being scammed by some of these companies, or when it's not worth it for them to buy it. There's some people who simply can't afford it, and they're buying into something that they shouldn't be buying into.
All right, so the sentence, I imagine, would contain values. It seems like that's the one thing that both teams can agree on, right? So if you came up with a sentence, I don't know how you would want to phrase this, that both sides could agree on. Luxury goods?
Luxury goods are
it's the value that people project onto them, or the value that people attribute them is the only value that
That's
they
more
have,
important than the price itself, like, I guess, for the people buying it.
They're only worth the value that people attribute to them.
Yeah, I'm willing to accept that. I'm
Acceptable?
cool with
Both sides?
I will take
I would
that.
agree with
Acceptable?
that.
I will take that.
Okay, so we have reached a conclusion after a very heated debate. Wow, very excited. Can't wait for the next show. So the question that shooters asked was, are luxury goods worth their price? And shooters answered, luxury goods are only worth the value that people attribute to them. That does it for us. We will see you again next week for more exciting shooters. Well done, guys. Thank you. Good job, guys.
Ready?
Yeah.
Are you okay, babe?